And here's another one we couldn't have done it without. With Irene is pretty popular at the library with her presentations. And today she's going to share with us, Long Live Your French Ancestors. Irene is, as I mentioned, very popular for presentations, very popular in the library, been in the library a long time. I've been there since Irene's been there a long time. Everybody comes in, knows her, loves her. She's got a wealth of knowledge. She actually has been at the library from New York since 1997. Long time, after receiving her librarian degree from the State University of New York at Buffalo. She's given talks to many groups on various aspects of genealogical research, including computers, the internet, ancestors in the modern military, using newspapers, knocking down brick walls, New York State, Irish, and French. She started her own genealogy when she was a teenager. She's not too long ago, but she's been doing it a long time though anyway.
Just a little while ago.
A little while ago, I was trying to be, has taken her lines back to France, Ireland, and recently Germany. Her Dutch ancestors have built a strong brick wall that she's chipping away at. I am very grateful to work with Irene and have her with us at the team. Knowledge base is inordinate. Remember, questions in the chat box. And Irene, I'm going to stop sharing. And
all right. Thank you for coming. It is Long Live Your French Ancestors. All right, this is going to be the first time I butcher the French language in here. So those of you who know French, I do not actually speak French. I read a little bit. Vive vos ancêtres François. It probably is not right. Who I am, Irene B. Walters. I'm a librarian here in the Special Collection at Clayton. And yes, I can do talks anywhere at almost any time. Clayton Library, we're part of Houston Public Library, whose mission is we link people to the world. And our unofficial slogan here at Clayton is we are linking you to the world of your ancestors. And now French genealogy research. With French genealogy, you want to do the same as you do with any other research. Go from now to then, go backwards in time, from what you know the most about to what you know the least about. In French research, you definitely want to go from small to big. Towns is where your records are kept and created in France. You go from your town to your department, to your region, to the country. You don't want to start with the larger records and move down. You won't find as much that way. You want to go from the local church up to its diocese or whatever, if it is a non-Catholic church, whatever entity is the larger church for it. Go from civil registers to church records and to other archival records like notarial records. Starting with French localities. Prior to the French Revolution, France was divided into provinces, and these are the provinces at that time. Provinces are now known as regions. They do not conform exactly to the same area and definitely do not conform to the same name as the provinces, but the various regions across France are in this picture. But in 1789, as part of the French Revolution, France was reorganized into départements or departments. There are 100 departments in France. They are one thing that you definitely want to try to figure out which department your ancestor is from. And each region can be divided into anywhere from 2 to like 6, maybe 7 departments. They are, the departmental archives has a lot of your records. The townships or municipalities or communes are the locality in France that the records start being kept at. They do call it a commune, even though it's basically a town, or basically not much more than a wide spot on the road sometimes. In large towns and cities such as Paris, they're often further divided into arrondissements, and these are the arrondissements in Paris. So we've heard of a few, like the Bastille and Champs-Élysées, but some of them you may not have heard of. French record keeping. Our ancestors in France kept civil registers, or Registres des États Civils. They begin in 1792, again with the French Revolution, and they continue up until today. They are still created today. Birth, marriage, and death are the États Civils, and they are available for research after 100 years. So technically right now, 1920 to 21 is becoming available to research. In practical terms, it's back a little bit before that of what has been scanned or digitized or even microfilmed, what you would be able to look at. If you went into France, technically you should be able to research in the 1920 and 21 records. Church registers, or registras paroso, the earliest are from the 1300s. So in theory, you could go back to the 1300s. Most places, though, in France start in the 1500s. They are harder to get a hold of after 1792 when the États Civils start, but you can, they are still kept by the churches, and you can get into quite a few of them, at least in the first 25 years or so of the 1800s. The civil registers. Births in France are naissance. Birth name literally means born in France, née, spelled with one E or two E's. When you see records in America, sometimes you see records that say a person's name, née something else, like my mom would be Marie Walters née Bush. That means she was born a Bush. Her maiden name was Bush. And in America, in England, that is what we use née for. In France, they mean it is they are born as this name. A civil register birth record contains the place, date, and time of the registration, the child's full name, the parent's full name. It is supposed to contain the ages, domicile, occupations, and if the parents are married or not. And yes, if they're not married, it is supposed to contain the father's name. Witnesses, there should be two with the same details as the parents. And after 1922, it would also contain the parents' dates and places of birth. So coming up soon in records that you would find, you would get even more information about them. Starting in the 1880s in the État Civil, they started margin entries over in the edges of on the side of the records. They started adding divorce information in 1886, marriage information in 1897, legal separation information in 1938, and death, if it was reported back to the place of birth, it was the death starting in 1945 was also put in the margins. The civil registers of marriage, it is the word marriage, just with one R. A husband is a mari or an époux. Wife is femme or épouse, épouse. I am not, like I said, I don't actually speak French. They contain the place, date, and time of the marriage, the couple's full names, ages, domicile, and occupations, the parents' full names, ages, domicile, occupations, and if they are alive or deceased. If they are deceased, of course, it won't put the occupation. But it might put where they last lived on a deceased parent. It might put the domicile of their that they were lived in when they died. And if there are any details of a marriage contract for the couple, it is supposed to be in the civil register. And the witnesses with the same detail as the couple, there's supposed to be 2 of them. They also contain any acknowledgement and legitimacy of children born before marriage. So if the couple had a child that was born or more children born before they got married, the marriage legitimizes them, and that would be included in the marriage record. Also, if they'd had a previous marriage, any details of that to prove that they were legally able to be married. Death or deceased. The word deceased actually is defunct, and where we get our defunct from. They contain the place, date, and time of registration and the place, date, and time of death. Now, if you were catching it close, back on a birth record, I did not say it contained the place, date, and time of birth. It contained the place, date, and time of the registration. The registrations for birth were supposed to take place like the day of birth, so or the day after. And since most of these towns were pretty small, it was you could do it on that day that quickly. Here, sometimes they died, and if they lived alone, you might not realize it at first. So that's why there's 2 dates on a death record. The deceased's full name and domicile, the witnesses' 2 names, ages, domicile, and occupations, marital status of the deceased, name of the spouse if the spouse is alive, or sometimes if the spouse is already deceased, it will put the name of the deceased spouse on there, not always. Sometimes it contains the parents' full names, domicile, occupations, and if alive or deceased. It does not always contain the parents' names on a death record. And women are filed under their birth surname, not their married surname. In France, technically, a woman never changes her name. She is always the name she goes by, or she was born with. Those that came to America from France, they were born there, got married there, came over to America. All of a sudden, she's Mrs. whatever, Mrs. Strife, Mrs. Bush, Mrs. Becker. She is no longer what her maiden name is. So she's no longer Barbara Brio. She's Mrs. John C. Barbara Bush in America. So it is hard sometimes to find a death record in France if you don't know what her maiden name was. Until 1865, technically, the deaths were registered in the place of birth, regardless of where the domicile was at death. Though a lot of the people that record is they were born and died in the same town, so it's not that difficult. This is something that I have found in books and in information about France. I have not found one that did not have their death record recorded in their domicile at death in my research that I've done. And for those that were on when Sue and I were just chatting before the talk, all of my mom's side is from France, and I've done 3 or 4 of the lines and looked at the records over in France. So I have seen people before 1865 who are registered in their domicile at death where that is not where they were actually born. So this one is a caveat. It could be either way. There are also tables de mutations, is what they call it. It is information about wills and inheritors of them that are sometimes information in Etat Civil. Oops. It popped too far. Church registers, Registre Pederoso. Baptism or baptime, they contain the date of baptism and sometimes the birth date. If the child is not being baptized on the day that they were born, the child's name and sex, because a lot of French names you can't go necessarily by the name. Jean can be either a boy or a girl. Michel is usually a boy in French, but could be a girl. Parents' full names, and that does vary. Sometimes it does not include the mother's maiden name. If the parents are married or not, will be included in the baptism. The godparents' names, usually there are 2 of them, and also what religion. And I know that throws you a little bit, going, what religion in the parish registers? The Catholic Church was the governmental record keeper for a long time, from the 1500s when official record keeping started up until 1792. The Catholic Church was the official record keeper, so it doesn't matter if you were Jewish or if you were Lutheran, Mennonite, or Catholic, your registration was in the Catholic Church. And it will say on there if they were of another religion. For Jewish, it's S-U-I-V, I believe is the word. And I'm not Sue. I think it's pronounced Sue or Suv for Jewish people. And I have seen those in the records. Marriage in the church records is the same word, marriage. Same words for husband and wife are used in the church records. But you will see publications banns, B-A-N-S, for the banns being pronounced of marriage. They would announce the marriage for at least 3 weeks before each Sunday, for 3 weeks before the marriage happened. The church registers contain the couple's full names, ages, parish that they actually belong to, if usually the groom is not from that parish, and their occupations. And some of this stuff does vary some, because it depends on what the priest felt like writing down sometimes. And of course, the date of the marriage. They also contain from 2 to 4 witnesses with the same details as the couple. It depends on time period, how many witnesses you get, but the minimum is 2. I have seen them actually with more than 4, but usually most of the time it's 2 to 4. You are supposed to get the parents' full names, ages, domicile, occupations, and if alive or deceased, and information about the publication of bans, if they had published them, or if there was a reason that they did away with the publication of the bans. And if someone is underage, the details of any parental consent. Technically in France, underage is an interesting thing, because it wasn't just like, 18 and 21 here in America. You were supposed to get permission all the way up into your 30s from some part of the family, your parents. Then there's a time period that if your parents still weren't giving you permission, you got it from the head of the family and so forth. So you could be getting parental consent listed in the church registers all the way up into somebody being in their 30s. Burials or sepulture contain the deceased's full name, age, date and place of death, and occupation at death. The witnesses or relatives' names, usually 2. There has to be at least 2. It's the person giving the information and the other person as a witness. Name of the spouse, if they are alive. Sometimes if the spouse was deceased, the name would also be included. Also, burials can contain the parents' full names, usually only though if a deceased person is a child. So if it is someone under 20 that is getting that has died and is being buried by the church, their parents' names are usually in there. And again, even in the church records, the women are filed under their birth surname, not their married surname. Where do you find these French records? Well, I would start with the records at the LDS Church Library in Salt Lake City and on FamilySearch.org. Start with a place search for your village or town. Civil registration, the actual are the words that are the actual subject heading for the État Civil. And church records is the actual subject heading for the parish registers. After you've done the town and or village search to see what records you can find for that and what has been digitized, has been microfilmed and digitized by the LDS Church. Next, do a place search for the department or department. Civil registration indexes is usually what you will find for the department subject headings. And those are the subject headings for what are known as tables decennials, 10-year tables, 10-year indexes of birth, marriages, and deaths by department, by town or commune. Emigration and immigration is another major subject heading for that is by department level usually. They have a lot of records about the emigration and immigration of Frenchmen and French women because you had to get permission to leave France, just like you did Germany and some other countries in Europe. So you had to show that you weren't running out on your debts, running out on your military obligation and so forth. Then do a place search for the region. So my French ancestors are mostly from, three parts of them are from Villiers, which is a small town in the department of Moselle, which is in the region of Lorraine. So you would take your region and look for emigration and immigration. That's your biggest subject heading for records to find. There will be some that are church records under both the department and the region. Sometimes if it's a larger church, or I'm not completely sure why sometimes you find them under the department or region when you can tell that it's a church that should be under a town. It might be that that individual town does not exist anymore, so they had to put it under the department or the region. To find a list of archives in France, you can look on Wikipedia, and you don't have to worry about writing down the websites that I put in the talk. They are all in the handout. Wikipedia has a list of the archives in France, and then the next site is links to the actual French archives online. I used to be able to give you one site that was both. Unfortunately, that site no longer exists. GeneNet is a great place to also find French records online. It is has a large free component and a paid component. Filier.com is another site. It has a very small free component now. It used to be much bigger, and most of Filier.com is a paid site now. So the list of archives in France here on Wikipedia, you go down to the bottom part where it says the departments of France and the archives départements de whatever the department name is. Those are the names of them. Some of those links actually link to the to the department, some link to other sections of Wikipedia. It does not show you here on Wikipedia nicely where it falls, but it is a nice long list of all of the departments. The links to French archives online, what you want is when you go to this site, unfortunately, they do not have the names of the different departments already listed. So you want to have a picture of the departments with their names so you know where your section is. As you mouse over the departments, it will tell you what the names are, but you need to know which part of the map you need to go to. So I'm going to show you some stuff from the Moselle Archives. That is where most of my family is from. And so you go to the Moselle Archives, almost every single archives in France, departmental archives at least, has a way to turn the information into English on the site, or if you put the site in Google, the site name, and go, Google will give you a translation. Researches is research. So that is the section that you go to on the sites. And it'll give you archives en ligne, which is archives online. And that's you then go to. Moselle is a little bit annoying in that it gives you the stuff by like parish registers and so forth. The way it pulls them up is different, but I will say French departments, having 100 of them is interesting. You know, twice as many states as we have here in America. It is, since as you research here in America, you have 50 different states and at least 50 different ways of record keeping and how things are. The French, their record keeping is pretty consistent across the country of how they keep the records, how they will show them online from the different archives. There's probably at least 100 different ways. Each one is different, and they can drive you crazy if you have people from more than one archive. It's like, wait a minute, on this one I can't find it, on this one I can. So parish registers and so forth. So I went into the parish registers. Basically, I agreed at the bottom to read, to search the parish registers, and then I can go in by commune or township. Alphabetical. When you get to the choices, my choice of municipality of Villiers, I copied that little bit at the top, put it in Google Translate, and it told me that Villiers is still to digitize. See the records in the town hall. And if my ancestors were there before 1692, see Landorf before 1692. So the parish registers have not been digitized by the Moselle Archives yet and put online. This was when I first did this talk at least 3 years ago, I believe it was, maybe 4, because it was in 17. It was not digitized, and they still are not digitized for the parish registers. So I went to another town to check, and went for Gros-Rederching, which is another town in Villiers, and they have done the records. Once I clicked on, whoops, my keyboard is a little fast here. Once I clicked on it and went in, they had different time periods, baptisms, marriage, and death records, 1765 to 1791, or 1700 to 1716. And Gros-Rederching has, before it was Gros-Rederching, it was Singling, S-I-N-G-L-I-N-G. And so some records are in that. You can click on it, go in, and actually see and look at records and move around on there. I will say the software to view the records with the French records, it's pretty good, but it is different depending on which archives you're using, which one they're doing. They all are pretty good, and they all have, they digitized them. They did an amazing job digitizing them. They didn't just digitize from the microfilm. Most of them seemed to have digitized straight from the original records. That's why you're seeing it in brown tones. So you can zoom in and see what's going on. If you can read French, that is, it has a lot of information about the record. The next thing you want to look at is look for tables decennials and see what record you can get for that. Now, like I said before, a table decennial is a 10-year index for the records. And unfortunately, when you look at the tables decennials and go in, a 10-year index or a 10-year period is different depending on which town and or archive you're using, mostly by town, because they were created, these 10-year tables were created by each town and sent to the departmental archives. Gros-Retterching goes 1823 up to 1933. So they use it, they start their records on the years ending in 3. Other towns go like 1821 to 1831. That's the year with 1, some with 2. It depends on your town. So you'll have to figure it out as you look at your town, what's the 10-year period that it is. It's not all like 1830 to 39, 1840 to 49. It does not do that way. Also, some records, as you look at them and go in, you should get a first page like this. This is births and adoptions in Gros-Retterching, table decennials. And the records are not necessarily recorded the same. Some have their last names alphabetically, and then by date. So all of the Kirschners, which is my family in Gros-Retterching, would be together and alphabetically. And then if there were 2 kids with the same name, it would be the one born earlier than the one born later. Sometimes it is all of the K's together. So it is the first person born with the last name starting with K, then the next person born with the letter K, third person born with the letter K for a last name. So it can be quite different sometimes. But here is the Kirschners born in Gros-Retterching in the 10-year time period that is here. This is 1833 to 1843, I think. No, this is the 1823 to 1833 time period in my example. And on the left is the names, of course, and on the right, it's the date. And when you are looking at French records, remember they understood the word that September, October, November, and December, what the etymology of it was. So you will see sometimes 7 BRE means September, does not mean the 7th month. It means September. 8 BRE for October, 9 BRE for November, and 10 BRE for December. But you will also see, as you go backwards slightly, you will see the French timekeeping that was done during the French Revolution. So this is the marriage records. Marriage records are done by the groom's last name. There's no separate or entry for the female, unless you got a really good clerk who actually did that. They were not supposed to put it by the female's name. So this is a birth record, and at the very bottom of the page is George Kirshner and Magdalena Wetzel getting married in 1823. They are the parents of most of those Kirshner kids that you saw on the previous, on the birth index. They had a few more than were there. And then this is a death page, deceased. And it starts with, right at the top of the page is a marriage record, and then on the left-hand page, and then going down, it says deceased, and is the death records. Sometimes they are 3 separate books: births and adoptions, marriages, and death records. Sometimes they're together in one book, and you have to watch for when the thing changes, the type of record keeping changes. So this is a closer view of the deaths, and there is one Catherine Kirshner who died in that time period. This is another tables decennials with a slightly different look, some more Kirshner kids. And so within the same town and with the next tables decennials, next 10-year index, the record bookkeeping can change a little bit, because it was the Mari, or mayor of the town, which was the clerk, that was the one who created the records and kept them. So a look at another department. This is the Archives Department of the Ardennes. You go in and you look, you can see some sources for genealogy, sources for iconography or pictures, sources online. And there's the Parish Registers, or État Civil, and Parish Registers and État Civil. Then registers of those who joined the military. It's a military census record. Then the tables for successions and absences. Successions and absences are, it's a full mine of information for a genealogist. They can contain, for a given period, list of deceased persons and the elements allowing them to regulate their the succeeding generations who got their possessions. Can give you civil status, information on heirs, references to wills, and declarations of succession. And that is where in Louisiana the word succession comes from for their probate records. So here in the Ardennes, we pick a town name. I wanted to say department. It's like, no, Ardennes is the department. And then it gives us a list of the different types of records. So there's quite a bit more digitized in the Ardennes. And so this is marriages and divorces together in the records for the Ardennes. And we have at a time period when the record can have some information in that's pre-typed in there, and the handwritten version. And it is the pre-typed this is what they are supposed to be writing. So you can see, you can read it as what they're supposed to be writing over there. The military records for the Ardennes, I went into the military records that were online and researched the name. So I kind of played around till I found a name that would come up. And like Edmond Emile Charbot, registered in 1879 in Angecourt, the Ardennes. And this is the information about Charbot. Let's see, did I do? Yes, I did so you get the thing filled in, all sorts of information about what he did for a living before he went in, when he went in, and so forth. So is his military record. Some more military information. Your time period for the military information is mostly the late 1800s to early 1900s, basically up to some into World War I, a little bit. Some places a little bit after World War I, but not much. Very few places have put their military records for, it's about I've seen it about 1870. For before 1870, I have not seen it, but it depends on your department. I definitely have not gone through all 100 departments of France. The result of military research, this was a specific year, 1867, and all the different types of records that technically are contained in the Ardennes, are in the military records there. So 1867, list of the cantonel and du contingent, the contingent of these soldiers. And then it is listed by each soldier as you go down. So more information. So they're kept different ways at different time periods. Sort of like our records kept differently, whether it's Revolutionary War, War of 1812, Civil War, and so forth. The tables do successions and absences. The bureau or town was Grand Prix, 1922 to 1926, 1926 to 1947. These are some records. Because it is deaths, they do go up past, they don't have to be 100 years old. And it gives you some the basic information about the person, plus some information about where you're going to find, in what record book and so forth, you're going to find the successions and absences. Most of the time, the word tables in France really is referring to the fact that it's an index of something. Now, where else can you find records besides on the archives? You can find some on Genealogists, and you can do family trees on Genealogists for free. You can go in and create an account, search for family trees, search for some of the other records that they have on there, and you can put your own family tree up on Genealogists. So you have an individual search that you can do. So I did Nicholas Lallier. That's one of my main family lines that came from France. And Nicholas, we thought it was senior and junior as they came to America. I have since found out there was like 6 generations possibly going back where Nicholas. Someone has said that there were 6 more Nicholases, or at least 4 more Nicholases going back. So I've found Nicholas, and it gives you information. This is in the family trees. I did put a town name of Villiers to try to narrow it down. And I found this person who had Nicholas as from Valorage in Moselle and dying in Villiers, at one from 1750 to 1801, possibly as the ancestor of my Nicholas Sr. coming down. This is another tree of Nicholas Lawyer and showing how they come down. So the different trees come up looking a little differently, depends on how the person put it in on the site, and if they have paid for access to GeneNet or if it's free. But you also get down at the bottom some information about the person who created the tree. Usually quite a few of them have a little bit of hey, hi, how you doing? This is my tree and I'm doing these names and this part of the family. Some just come up with their name, no picture, and have it. So you can, but they all have a way that you can contact them so that you can say, hey, you have these people in your tree, they are my relatives also. Let's get together and work on the tree together. So I copied Jean-Paul Godin's information, put it in Google Translate, and it's like, hey, welcome to my family tree. Hello and good research in the genealogy of Godin and Oria. Hey, Joy, that might be related to you. On the side of my father, Pemba and Della Place on my mother's side. So what is going on? The GeneNet archives, some of the archives information they have is free, some of it is paid. So as you go out of the family trees and into the records that they have on GeneNet, you can search the archives information and you get results with that little page next to them are more of archives things. And if it's a little tree next to their name, that is those that are connected to a family tree. Sometimes the page image is because someone has uploaded records out of off of the archives or off of family tree or off of microfilm that they have scanned themselves off of, or an image from microfilm that they've scanned. Other information it gives you, the collaborative indexes, it is, they are working in France to index as much of this information as possible. That is, people in France are doing it, just like people here in America are working on a lot of the family tree or the family search information and indexing a lot of records from all sorts of different places or doing find a grave and so forth. People on GeneNet are working to index information. So you get, such as this is Château-sur-Moselle, that there was an Angelique Lallier whose husband's first name was Charles and his name was Gobert, that they have indexed the record from. So and that is the first name there, that is Angelique Lallier or Lallier. Now, as you look at those records, the fifth one down has a little yellow circle with a P on it. That means it is a premium or paid record that you would have to have a paid subscription to GeneNet to view. And if you click on that one, you will get this reserved for premium members. I do not at the moment am not paying for a GeneNet subscription, so I do not have it on there. At the time though, I actually was paying for one at the time that I pulled the record up. So I paid for a short period of time and got the record so you could see what type of record it is. And it is just like the archives records. a lot more lawyer records. So the lawyers were also from Paris. And so you can put in different places. You can do your search filters over on the other side. So I put in probate registers to try to find probates for lawyers in France and in Paris, because I knew there was lawyers in Paris. They also have a section of headstones and memorials on Genealogists. You do not get as much headstone information and cemetery information for France as you do for America, because technically in France, you do not pay for a spot in a cemetery. You pay to rent a spot in a cemetery for a certain number of years. And so it's quite a while. It's like 25 to 50 years or more. And what they do is they, when your rental time is up, they will dig a new hole there and actually bury somebody on top of you. And your tombstone may or may not stay there. They might carve the new name into it so that you both are shown there if it is a family. Or there are some cemeteries I have heard of where they took the headstones from the one that's buried below. They put the new one on, took the old one, and if it was like that cemetery was near a stream or had a little cliff next to it, they threw the headstones over the cliff. So you'd find a pile of headstones down at the bottom of a cliff. So you're not necessarily going to find headstone information that goes back a long ways in France. File.com is pretty much, as I said, it's now a paid site. You could, for a while, for a long time, go on File and search for people. And like here, it shows the first couple of Nicholas lawyers that I searched for in Villiers. It was birth of an infant for the first 3 of them, and then a death for the 4th one. And it will pop up and ask for that you have to pay for the site now. And you could go, but you used to be able to go in, and some of them, it would pop up asking for payment for certain records. Now it pops and it will pop up saying that something is free. I have gone into the site just this past week, and it has changed. And like the Archives of Moselle is asking, it's asking for payment through File. If I am on the Archives of Moselle by itself, I can still search. So you might want to search File and see what you can find, where you can find the names, because they have indexed them. But the actual, and on the archive site, some archives have put indexes up on them, some haven't. So you're going to do it, you're going to find it both ways. And so that you can get into and see it now, where those little check marks are and so forth. Mostly what you see is closed locks where the records are not open because they are paid. But when you do pay for on File, you will get all the way into the records such as this and see Nicholas Lawyer's records in the different, an extract of the document, get down to the image. You can download them and use them. Now, the other type of French records that people are French emigration and immigration that people do a lot of in America is Huguenots. And much of the research for a Huguenot will actually be done outside of France. So you need to look into how the records are kept in whatever country your Huguenot moved to from France, because the Huguenots were non-Catholics who were being persecuted in France. You should not actually find them listed as a Huguenot inside France, because the word Huguenot was a very derogatory term. So they did not call themselves that. They called themselves the French for Lutheran and the French for Calvinist and so forth. When you are looking in France, once you get them back to France, look for the church registers of the town. Pre-civil registration is going to be non-Catholics who are registered in the Catholic Church. There are some registers for non-Catholic churches in the different departmental and regional archives, so look for those also. French Canadians. The Druid collection is the biggest collection of French Canadian records that exists. Luckily, the Druid collection of microfilm, which was thousands and thousands of rolls of microfilm, has been digitized and indexed on Ancestry. So going into the Ancestry, however you do it, whether it's your paid subscription or an Ancestry Library Edition connection through your local library, if you just go into search card catalog, put the word Druid in, and these will all come up because they're from the Druid collection. Some are French, the first three there are French Canadian, and then some French Catholic churches in America, then the Quebec notarial records of the Druid collection, and some miscellaneous French records, some of which are newspapers from Canada or from just on the American side of the Canadian border, from different towns that had a lot of French ancestry in the town, where they would write the newspaper in French and so forth. There are a lot of records that you can get into from the Druid collection, and a lot of ancestors that you can find. The other French Canadian information that you want to look at, here I go to murder the French. Répertoire des actes de baptême, mariage, sépulture et des recessements du Québec ancien. 17th century Quebec to 1765 records, mostly as a large set of books. We have them here at Clayton for those of you who are going to be able to come to Clayton and do research. If not, that name is in my handout so that you can search your local public genealogy collection and see if they happen to have those books. They are baptisms, marriage, deaths, and some censuses of the Quebec, ancient Quebec or the old Quebec records. The books are in French. There is a wonderful couple of pages at the front telling you what is in those records and what the different columns mean. If your ancestor came with direct emigration to America, do place searches in the LDS catalog for the French location and look for the words emigration and immigration. Also search our HPL catalog, and the subject heading in our HPL catalog is also emigration and immigration. Books such as Les Lorraines and America du Nord. People from Lorraine who came to North America is what it is, by Jean Hupert. And he looked at records both from France, because you had to get permission to leave, and records in America. And he did his research actually in France, in the archives. I have not seen in the archives I've looked at where they have digitized any of those emigration records, the permissions to leave. Some of them might have that up already. I don't know. Just in the ones I've looked at, they haven't. But there are quite a few books that people have created in the LDS catalog, some of which have been digitized and are available online. when you are looking at French documents, if you are like me and did not actually take French in high school and don't know your French, I can read French better than I can speak it. But it's more of, I can figure out what the words are. If I can figure out what the letters are, I type them into Google Translate, Babelfish, and Reverso to find out what they mean. All three will also help you translate the words into from English into French to be able to send to contact the people on GeneNet and so forth. Another one, Word Reference, gives you a nice sort of dictionary thing of what the words mean and how it changes. So sometimes it can help you with the endings, the ending letters of the words. Another place to help with translating documents is the Family Search Wiki and the Association for Professional Genealogists, APGen. If you want to hire someone who truly knows how to do the French research, you can go on APGen and find somebody who does French research as a professional genealogist, and they can help you usually translate a document. So this has been Long Live Your French Ancestors, Vive vos ancêtres François. Irene Walters at Clayton Library. We are open Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 4 for researchers and for telephone reference. And you can find our information on houstonlibrary.org. Thank you, and I am going to toss it back to Sue. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And Sue, you're
Look, it's my background. We're from France. No, it's kind of a long story, but I'm going to share my screen one more time because we're fun and it's the way we do things here at the library. We want to remind.
I do understand the picture behind you.
I know you do. I know you do. And so we want to remind everybody that, let's get here, that no matter who your ancestors are, it's important to search for them. And I hope you understand or enjoy our humor of the coneheads who were from France. When the last week or so, we were playing around at the library, and every time we would talk about the presentation with this, we would always go, we're from France. So I am going to stop sharing my screen for a minute so I can get rid of that picture. But Irene, I really appreciate you, pointing out the different websites rather than just the usual ones we go to, with Family Search and Ancestry, although mentioning the Druid collection and Ancestry. When you find some of those sources on those deeper websites, if you will, do you sometimes go over to Family Search to see if some of those records have been digitized by any slim chance?
Yes, I do. Some of the records, Family Search and the French government have done some talking because Family Search had gone into France and microfilmed so many records. Family Search is not putting the État Civil up necessarily, but they have been digitizing the parish registers. So I can look at my parish registers on Family Search, I can look at the tables decennials and find, information and go back over onto Family Search and then look for the records. I think they have digitized some parish register, État Civil also, but I know the particular town of Villiers that I do, that it was for a long time, it was only the parish registers that I would find.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, just because we are doing such a deep dive of those websites
Yeah.
that you showed us, just to use some of them in conjunction. So
Yeah. And some of them are locked so that you can't view them at home. But if you have an affiliate library or a family history center near you, you can view them there. Like you can view them here at Clayton because we're an affiliate library.
the family search.
Family search stuff. Yeah.
I am going to now throw it over to Mitch, who will bring some of the questions and some of the comments from the chat. Mitch?
I don't think my head's that pointy. Anyway, so Irene, we do have
A little bit louder, Mitch.
Always helps to move the microphone in this place. Okay. Professionalism. Okay. I'm sorry. This the cone heads threw me off. We have a question from Catherine. Ask if you could clarify what you were saying about 7 BRE and 8 BRE.
Oh, okay. In French records, if they want to abbreviate September, SEPTEM is the word for 7. So they'll write September as 7 BRE. October, OCTO, is 10 or is 8. And so instead of being the 10th month, it will be written as 8 BRE. So if you see 8 BRE, it's not August, it's October. So 7 BRE, 8 BRE, 9 BRE, and 10 BRE are September, October, November, December. And I know you will also see that down in Mexican records too.
Okay, so Lori is asking, does the Archives 57 have all the archives on them? Lori says she couldn't find a one here, and I don't want to butcher the language, so she couldn't find one. Are they all on Archives 57?
Archives 57 is the Moselle Archives, I believe, because the postal code starts with 57 for Moselle. It is the okay, I know what it is. The one site that I have is just the archives that are online. So there's a few archives that are not quite up online yet, so it does not have all of them. Go on to the Family Search Wiki and look at that. And that I found basically just yesterday, so I didn't have really time to change the site. They have a link to, if there is a website for the archives. Each of the archives does have a website. They may or may not have anything up online of their records.
Okay. Matt Cross just wants to remind everybody that Clayton has a copy of, is it Jete's compilation of French Canadian families, which is a great secondary source.
Yeah, I have quite a few things on the bibliography, but we do have more than that.
And Donna Beth Shaw wants to let everybody know regarding French passports, anyone traveling within France during the Revolutionary era was required to have a passport as though they were leaving the country. So that might be, if you had some ancestors that were trying to move around the country during the Revolution, that might be a source for information as well. Most of the rest of what I have are congratulations. Barbara says, excellent presentation, very helpful. Kellen says, excellent, big thank you. Sandra says, thank you for the great presentation. Barbara loved the Coneheads reference. Lori thought was very helpful. And let's see, I'm gonna see if there's any more questions here. Terry Meeks wants to let everybody know about the French genealogy blog. There is a link in the chat window. It's excellent how-to articles in English and complete list of departmental, archives, departmental archives,
Departmental.
departmental. Yeah, yeah. Okay, I guess that's an English word, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Matt Cross brings up the fact that Family Search has digitized the Catholic Parish Registers for Quebec as well.
Yes.
Yes, and now Judy Jane says the parish registers that she needs are all locked for home viewing. So Judy, what can Judy do?
If she lives, if she's from here, come on into Clayton and you can view them using our computers or our Wi-Fi. So bring your own laptop in, you know, and we can help you get to them. You can download them. Because even if they're locked, you usually can download the images once you can get to them at an affiliate library. If she does not live near us, close enough to come in here, then look on Family Search for a Family History Research Center near her location, or another affiliate library, because like Mid-Continent Public Library is an affiliate, Allen County Public Library is an affiliate, and there's some more.
Irene, can I sort of add to that,
Sure.
please?
Go
So
for it.
make sure that when you can't see an image at home, that it says affiliate library. Okay, that's the first thing. So, and there's a lot of small public libraries that are affiliate libraries too. And also the family history centers, remember, are closed for like 90 days. So they won't be able to see any images at a family history center. So if the images when you're at home and the little bubble that comes up, it says that it's a family history center and only a family history center, you're going to have to hang on to that for a while because they're closed because they're upgrading their system. If the little bubble says affiliate library, as Irene mentioned, us, Independence, Missouri, you know, Fort Wayne, Indiana, and a lot of little libraries, and you can find the locations on Family Search. Difference between Family History Center, library affiliate.
Okay, and Joy points out, Joy points out also in the chat that you can also contact us by via email at cla.reference@houstontexas.gov, and we can possibly do some research for you there, a very small amount, but we do offer reference help that way as well.
And the library in Salt Lake itself, you could contact to get some help with that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing lookups. If you go to the Family Wiki and put in consultations or lookups in the search box, they will do them for you also. So thanks for mentioning.
So there was a question earlier about not being able to find everything in Archives 57. There is somebody, Lourdes, in the chat does give some more information about that. So if that was your question earlier, you might want to look at the chat and look up Lourdes' answer here. It was to Lori. She says it was the Boucher du Rhône ID department, okay, the number 13. Let's see, Rusty says wonderful presentation, great handouts. Kellen is trying to collect records from España, and I'm not sure if we're going to have much help here during the French lecture, but if anybody can help Kellen with records from España. Kellen's open.
I know just a little bit about Spanish records, not a lot. They did. I know that Salt Lake did microfilm a lot of them, so look for them kind of the same way. Look for by town and see what you can find that might be available. I don't know how much of them have been digitized by Spain itself and are online, but Salt Lake, the Family Search has microfilmed a lot of them. So,
Joy, do you have any suggestions for that area?
Yeah, so there's actually Family Search has a research wiki page for that, and I did a place search for Pontevedra in the Family Search catalog, and there are some items there in Family Search, like some notarial records, but I did not see like church records, like baptisms and marriages. But I would check out that Research Wiki page and go from there.
So once again,
Thanks.
just remind everybody, it would be a good idea to save the chat if any of this information is information that you want to keep. If you look at the bottom of the big chat window, there's usually a 3 dots there, like an ellipsis, also called the More menu. You click that and then click Save Chat, and it will save the chat as a text file on your computer, making it easier to come back after the fact, because once we close, everything goes away. And that's all the questions I have here. Thank you so much. And Sue, just thank you for the shout out for 1 year. I did not realize that. Thank you for being the engine that pushes us forward every week.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And again, thanks to the team. Thanks to everybody. And Irene has 2 other presentations coming up on family search and ancestry. Joy has beginning genealogy next week. So, and we can all learn from beginning genealogy. Don't, get onto that term. And Irene's presentations on family search and ancestry will be very helpful and continue, helping you research even to your French ancestors. So, happy anniversary, entire team. Happy anniversary with people that have been with us. And first timers, long timers, short timers. We appreciate your support. And thank you so much for joining us today for Long Live Your French Ancestors. Have a good rest of your weekend. Take care. Bye.